All right, everybody. Oh, we're gonna have to shut the scat man down. Welcome to All Things Fantasy Grounds, everybody. It is Tuesday night at 6 o'clock Pacific time, so that means it is time for this show. And we are going to be talking about extensions tonight. My co-host for this evening, since Layroon couldn't make it, is Furied Fate, and our special guest is Celestian for the extension show. What's up, Furied?
Nothing much. Just glad to be here and filling in for that slacker Layroon.
He's a slacker. That's true. Celestian, how you doing?
Pretty good.
I love you, man.
Oh, Urash has just subscribed right in the middle of your saying hello to everybody. Thanks, Urash. So, as it turns out, everyone, Layroon is actually here. What's up, Layroon?
Hey, what's up? I just made it. I was supposed to go to a wrestling match tonight, and my son basically hurt his leg, so I got out of it.
So you
And
broke
now-
your son's leg so you could be here tonight. That's awesome. That's the dedication right there.
Well, I cannot confirm nor deny that.
Excellent. Okay, well, so welcome everybody. Before we get started, I am going to inform you that you'll be seeing what I see on my screen. So I'm going to switch that over right now. Boom, right like that. And then I am going to give our disclaimer for the show. All Things Fantasy Grounds Talk Show is meant to teach and help, but the opinions stated by the four of us on the show are not those of Smiteworks USA LLC or Fantasy Grounds. So just keep that in mind, everybody. And tonight's show will be talking about extensions, and we are going to give away a prize at a random point during tonight's show. And that prize that we give away will be a unique extension for your Fantasy Grounds desktop with 3 images, up to 3 images in it. You can pick those images, and we'll create an extension for you, or I will, and send that to you so you can use that when players log on to your table. You can have whatever image you want there. So we're going to kind of show you how that's already been done and how that all works. You don't have to worry about coding. We'll take care of that, but we'll get a little bit into the behind the scenes for extensions and then try and answer all your questions, guys, tonight too as well. So when you say two as well, that's very, very redundant, but I just did it. So Celestian, you came to us as a guest on tonight's show because you yourself have done quite a few extensions. Why don't you tell a little bit about how you got started with that and what you've done? And while you're doing that, I'll go and show your list that you gave us of all the ones that you've done.
Okay. I originally came over from Map Tools, old school, used it for years, and run into a lot of issues with it. And I started poking around with Fantasy Grounds and realized that it was really flexible in what you could do for the mechanics and rules. So I started just hacking at a rule set just to kind of play with it. And as I did, people said, "Hey, can you make that an extension so it'll work with 5e?" Like my advanced effects thing. And that was kind of the start of the extensions. I was initially just going to do it all as a rule set for me, but it's become kind of a thing now just to try to make it to where whatever I write, somebody else can use it. So
nice. So you kind of did where you started tinkering and poking around behind the scenes inside XML and just kind of taught yourself how to do it, right?
Yeah. I'd never coded in Lua up until January of last year. I do program for my day job. It's not my primary focus of my job, but I do a lot of it. So it's not that much different from other things. It just, it took me some time to pick up the differences. And there's still some stuff that I'm not as familiar with as somebody that's been doing it a lot longer than me. But
okay, but it is fun to do. I think I don't really know that much about it, but I was able to crack open one and look at it and kind of decide how to manipulate it to fix it for what I wanted, which we'll show people that a little bit later in the show, guys. We'll show you how to crack open one of these extensions and look inside it if you want to do that. So good. So welcome. Thanks for being here tonight and lending your question answering expertise to us as we go through the show. So first thing we're going to show is where do extensions go. So when you download an extension, and by the way, we'll get to all the different places you can go to do that, and I'll show you guys that. But when you download an extension, where do you put it? Some people, it's obvious to most, but some people might not realize it does go in a folder called extensions, in your Fantasy Grounds folder. So if you see here on my computer, these folders, most of you guys already know, but for the new people that don't, your Fantasy Grounds data storage stuff is located in your users under your username in App Data Roaming. So that's the place you drill down. Now, if you have Steam, it might be different than that. But if you have the straight install, Fantasy Grounds, and then one of the files inside Fantasy Grounds is extensions here. So if you see when I open that up, we've got quite a bit of them installed here. Some I use, some I don't, some I don't have. But this is basically an individual taste thing for each person running Fantasy Grounds and what they want to have extensions for and why they might have them and use them and not use them and that kind of thing. Maybe you guys can, Celestian, I'm assuming you're impartial because you've written a few of these, but do you guys have favorites? Fury, do you have a favorite extension that you use?
Actually, I am an extension virgin. I haven't downloaded or used any of them, so I'm actually kind of excited to see how it's all done.
Very good. So that's a great that she said that, everybody, because the extensions are very much optional. You don't have to use them. They can enhance whatever Fantasy Grounds does for you, and we'll show you some examples. But yeah, so Fury's an example of somebody who doesn't even use extensions, which is totally fine. This is kind of an extra optional side thing if you want to do it. Leyrun, do you have a particular favorite?
Oh, I have a few. I like Message of the Day for campaigns.
Yes, Message of the Day.
I like both of the table importers for creating stuff, importing lists and things to import. I also enjoy the DOE extensions that were created by another fellow Fantasy Grounds forums person.
Yes,
Deluxe Oz.
And by the way, I'm glad you mentioned that because in a future show, we are going to have Deluxe Oz on with us, and we're going to go over his extensions extensively. We're going to talk only about his extensions on a show because he's done so many. He's done 5 or 6 of them. And so he's got a lot of great ones that we'll talk about. And we'll show a little bit about those today, too. Celestian, other than the ones you've created, do you have a favorite that you used or that you use often?
Window Saver. Always Window Saver.
Window Saver, yes. We're going to show that, too. Yeah, that's a great one. And then, of course, I love a lot. I use about 6 or 8 of these constantly. And I've used many ones before that I just don't use anymore for various different reasons. But my absolute favorite is 14-point clear font because I'm old in my eyes and I need it. And it makes the font bigger in Fantasy Grounds. And I love it. So, guys, if you have questions in the chat, we'll try to get to those. Just post them in the chat and we'll try to answer your questions as we go here. But let's see. Let's maybe show... What was the next thing we were going to show? Oh, yeah, we're going to show some examples.
I love you, man.
Hey, Fury, Fate is a subscriber now. Thank you, Fury. That's very nice of you.
I just realized I could do it for free.
Yeah, for Amazon Prime, everybody. There you go.
Yeah.
So let's show a couple of these. So I'm going to go load up a Fantasy Grounds table. And I actually test modules and stuff that I make. I created a campaign that's test with no extensions. So normally
Cheerbits.
I would
Cheerbits in the stream. Thanks for the Cheerbits.
Fantasy Grounds College Cheerbits. I would load up the these would all be off. All these red dots would be gone, and these would all just be blank. And I would load stuff up and test it. But since we're testing extensions, I'm going to go ahead and load the table import extension, which Celestian built himself. The 5e alternate wound colors, show you how that works. 14-point font. The color sidebars, many people ask about that one, so you'll see what that looks like. And then we're also going to do Message of the Day and Mood Lighting and Window Saver. So let's go ahead and fire up the table.
I love you, man.
Yes, Celestian has resubbed. That's how you get people to resub to your channel, guys. Just have a show and then invite people on, and then they'll sub to your channel. That's how you do it. Thanks for that, man. So we'll load up and we'll show people, and maybe, you know what I'll do? I'll load up a second instance of Fantasy Grounds with nothing in it, and then we'll maybe compare differences. So get rid of everything. Start. Oh my God, I've already screwed up stuff. Maybe you can't do that.
You can. It's just use a different campaign.
Yeah, I did. I used the same campaign, but it won't matter because this one will still. Okay. So let's do the obvious one, color sidebars. So that extension makes these buttons on the side colorful like that, as opposed to what you get with the regular Fantasy Grounds, which looks like this. So there's the difference right there. Colored or not colored, so that's cool. What else do we have? Oh, 14-point font. So I think, yeah, so you can see the difference just in the chat window here. That's the smaller, that's the regular font there. But if you have 14-point font installed, it's much bigger. And obviously there's more here because I had more extensions open. But the font's much bigger, and that will also apply to any story that you open. The font will be bigger here as well. And it's just much easier on your eyes and a lot nicer. What is another one that we opened? The good thing, you can tell what ones you've opened because it puts it in the chat over here. I know Fury doesn't, but do you guys use messages of the day?
I do.
I don't know.
So messages of the day is really cool because what you can do is you can create a story entry in your new group, and I'll do this now. And you must title it MOTD. It can't be any other title except that. But then you can type here, hey guys, welcome to the game. And you can go
Cheerbits.
You can
Cheerbits in the
blah,
stream.
blah.
Thanks for the cheerbits.
Cheerbits. You can type anything in here. You can put picture links. You can put let me do a map here. Let me just get a map here, just any link. You can put anything that you can put on a story entry, you can put in this. And then you do have to remember that once you complete this, and you can change it and do whatever. I'm just making an example. You have to share it, even though you don't have any players connected. You have to share the sheet. And the reason you want to do that is you want to make sure that your MODT has a public or a shared icon there. Now let me open yet a third instance of Fantasy Grounds, and I will connect to this table, and I will show you what happens. So join game, local, and then as soon as this connects, you'll see what happens. Normally when you connect to a table, is it connecting? I don't see that it's connecting. What's going on? Oh yeah, I guess it is. So normally when you connect to a table, you know, it just logs in like anything else you've ever seen. But in this case, we should see a message that is the message of the day, so you can kind of give everybody, see, there it is. So when I logged onto this table, it popped up, and whatever it would say in here, whatever images it had, oh yeah, I didn't, yeah, well, that's my fault, I didn't share the image. You know, you could say, hey, welcome to the game, today's game is episode this, and we're going to be exploring the cave, whatever you might say in there. Make sure and check your characters, make sure and level up, whatever it's any message that you want to appear right when people pop on your page. And if they close it or they need it back, it's just right in stories. You can go right over there and just reopen it like that. So it's really cool. All right, so we're going to get rid of this. What else did we do? We did mood lighting. Okay, so mood lighting here, this extension. This is kind of cool because there's in Fantasy Grounds, there's this thing that you can change the color, you know, like this, it goes night and it changes to this, and it goes, you know, campfire goes to this, forest goes to green, right? But with mood lighting, I forget the code, but there's yeah, so the one thing that doesn't have is instructions, but they are on the forum. But I think mood cave. Layroon, do you use that one?
No, I have never used it.
So I might be stuck here.
I'll look that up for you.
Oh, here it is, right here, mood. So if you just do /mood, oh yeah, then it keeps giving me these. Okay, so there's about, I think cave is one. Mood cave, is that one?
Type /ML.
Oh, right. Mood lighting cave. There you go. Yeah, okay, there you go. You're right. Thank you so much for that, Celestian. So you type /ml and then what you want, forest, and it gives you a little message. You are in the forest, and it changes the colors. And then there is something in here where you could turn on funny little messages. It'll do like a little one-liner joke for you. And I can't remember, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, guys, but just to show you an example of how it works. And Celestian saved me about 5 minutes of work there by telling me that, so thank you. So anyway, that's one that we have as well. What else is there? Oh, alternate wound colors. So let's see if we've got anybody in here. Let me put a PC in there. Oh no, wait, we can do it with a. Yeah, okay. So you know how over here in the wounds and also on the map, let's just get any map and throw that out there. There is no map. Yeah, here we'll use Dissarian Valley. That's not really what we're looking for, but it'll suffice. So, okay, so the blue is fully healed, and in the combat tracker, you don't see fully healed because there's just nothing in there. But if he gets wounded, the normal colors are green, red, and black, and I think that's it. Or even maybe just green and red and then gray when you die. But in this case, it goes green, and then if he gets slightly more wounded, it might change. It seems that this is not working. Oh, maybe it only works for. Does it only work for PCs? That would be bad. What do you guys think? Do you guys ever use this one either?
No, I've never.
Sorry.
It's really cool. I like it a lot, but it might only work for PCs, which I didn't realize. Let's find out. What? Give me. Oh yeah, because there's no. Well, if you don't have a token, you're not gonna see it on the map, are you? No, you're not. So let's. Oh, M is my only choice. All right, fine. Everybody waits while Rob figures out what to do. Nope, that's not going to help me.
For this.
Yeah, there's a place you can go, you guys, to learn about how to do this. Oh my god. So it's. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm just fucking up everything. This is so awesome. All right, so let's try and put a portrait in here then. Just give it any portrait. The old Spurl portrait. Okay, now that's all. Okay, so there we go. So you see he's on there. So not this one though. So now if I damage him, let's say he's got 100 hit points. Okay, if I do just 1, it goes to green. If I do 20, nope, you know what? This isn't working. Okay, so that's a good lesson. That's actually good for the show. So that extension is not working. And that's a very important
It could have been because of an update or something, which
exactly
is very common mistakes with extensions and updates.
And we even had that just as a further point down the list to talk about. Yeah, sometimes extensions don't work. So here's a good example. We just found that one that doesn't work right now. And the reason that is because Fantasy Grounds will update the program, and then they always warn you about if you have extensions you need to look at each one of those, and sometimes on the forums they're pretty good about putting like, oh, this extension is out of date, doesn't work anymore, or it needs an update, or it's fine with the new update that they put out. So you always need to be careful about that. And that's actually a great segue into where to find extensions. So I'll post the URLs in the chat if you guys want to follow along. The first place to find information about extensions is the Fantasy Grounds wiki. So let me put that link in the chat for you guys. That is this one. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you won't see this because we're putting in the chat. But if you look for wiki, so if you go to the extensions wiki on Fantasy Grounds, it walks you through the information about it, and it leads you to all the different rule sets and all the different extensions available. So that's that. here is a list of the core RPG rule set extensions, and the core extensions should work in any game set. So core RPG extensions should work in 5e, they should work in Pathfinder, they should work in Savage Worlds. That's the whole thing about having them here, is that they can be used for any of the rule sets. And I'll put the URL for that in the chat. And
I don't use 1 second. I don't use Pathfinder, but I'm not sure that they're core RPG compatible unless they've changed that recently.
Okay, so yeah, so you do need to check that, because Pathfinder might run on a different thing other than core RPG. So you're right, but they will go through and they will list all the extensions that are available here, and say you wanted to do Old School Initiative, let me grab that and use that one, and you just download it and put it in your extensions file, and then when you go to load up Fantasy Grounds, you'll check that dot. And but most of the authors that create extensions are pretty good about telling you, like this one says update needed, and this one says compatible with 3.3.0. So they'll kind of tell you. And if you click on one, Enhanced Item Forge, and if you go here, this is the actual forum listing for just that extension, and here's where you can download it. But there'll be discussion threads that say, hey, this doesn't work anymore, you need to update it, or it's fine. So most of the authors are pretty good about keeping the update. And as a matter of fact, Leroon and I, just before the show, we were talking about the fact that Deluxe Oz even has written into his extensions is the fact that if you go down here and his are out of date, there'll be a little notification here that says, hey, this is out of date, you need to upload the newest. I don't know how the hell he figured out how to do that, but it's pretty awesome. So the other place that's a common place to go is the 5e ones, and that's here. Actually, that was the one I was showing, so here's the URL for that. So yeah, and there's obviously many different, there's just like dozens and dozens and dozens of them if you look at these two places, and that's just those two. There's Savage Worlds, and basically what you would ever do on the forums is you would come to whichever game system you want. Like say you were looking for 4E, and you could go in there and here's a list of extensions in 4E right away. Bam, there they are. So whatever rule set you're looking for, you can go and find these. Look at Deluxe has all these for 4E. That's awesome. So that's where you find those guys, and you won't find extensions anywhere else except the Fantasy Grounds forums. Really, they're not things, at least not that I'm aware of. Maybe you guys know different, but I don't know anybody that has them, that puts them on their own personal website or anything. Everything's just on the Fantasy Grounds forums, if that's where you want to find it. Any questions in the chat or anything, guys, so far? I don't know.
Joe Numbers said that extension was working, the colored one, but that's the last thing I saw.
Okay, so yeah, it might be. I don't know why it's not working for me, but I would have to investigate that. I'm not going to do that during the show, but I'm glad that happened, because that's a great thing that we had to remind people of. Is sometimes the extensions don't work because they're not really part of Fantasy Grounds, and they're not officially sanctioned or controlled by Fantasy Grounds. They're just user mods, basically, not to be confused with modules, but you know how people mod video games and whatever they do, users just make their own stuff for it. When to use and when not to use, I'm going to defer to you three rather than me keep on talking forever. I know Fury doesn't use them, but she's excited to use them. But what about you guys? Do you have specific examples of when you think you couldn't do without one? I know Celestian loves Window Saver. Oh, that's one we didn't show, Window Saver. Let's do that. So Window Saver is an extension that I have installed here that basically, when you go out of Fantasy Grounds and come back, it will open up the windows that you had open when you left the table. So rather than going to the blank default, it'll bring back, so just what we saw there for a second ago. When this opens up, it should come exactly like that, and it'll give you this Window Saver. Do you want to go back to the windows that you had last time? Yes, I do. Boom. Now they weren't positioned in the same place, but they were the same windows. So if you had a map open or a certain story entry or whatever it was you had open, it'll just revert. If you had the combat tracker open and the party sheet and all that, it'll all just pop back up wherever it was. So that's cool. But Celestrian or what's your name, Leroon? Do you guys have any do's or don'ts about extension that you want to pass on to people?
Yeah, I would say that my first impression of extensions were that they're just going to work, right?
Right.
So this is our early days of Fantasy Grounds, and what I found out is over time, I have to keep up with them, check the forums occasionally. I'm talking like at least once a month, and make sure that nothing's been changed or updated or made better. So that is something that that we definitely want to take care. And if you're unsure what it does, I mean, get a hold of the developer or ask around the community, whatever. Just don't install it and think that it's going to work. And so that's my warning about it. But the good thing about it is that without some of that functionality that it adds, and it's an extension, so I look at it as a way that it extends the functionality of Fantasy Grounds. And without some of those, I think we'd be spending a lot more time doing certain things like the table importers. I can't live without those. Those are invaluable.
Oh my God, we didn't show the table importer. Okay, so here is Celestian's table importer. Let's do that. Let me go create a table. Now, when I go down and try to create a new table, you'll see there's an extra blue arrow that is not normally there. So I can click on that, and then I can get any rollable table. So let me think if I got a good example. Do I have a good example? I should have maybe prepared this in advance. I forgot about it. Let's go into Encounters in the Savage Jungle, which wasn't there a table in here, Leroon, when we looked at this the other day?
Yep.
Well, this isn't meant for it, but this will be a good example. So I'm going to copy that.
Yep.
I'm going to paste it right here. And provided those line breaks aren't, I don't know that I trust the line break. So I'm going to clean it up and make sure everything is on one line.
Top line is going to be your title as well.
Right.
And okay, so there should be 10 entries. And when I click import, it's going to just make the table for me. Bam! And yeah, I've never noticed a title pop up there, but I just title it like, this is this table, whatever it is. I don't know. We're just doing an example. And then you put the
New
label
version.
in. So, but
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you don't have the latest version, which does that. That's okay.
The latest. See, I didn't check. I didn't do what Leroon told me, which was check your things every month. I didn't do it. But see, it put it in here. It gave me the 10 entries, 1d10, and now it's a table, and I mean, it just works, and you don't even have to think about it. It's done. So that is fantastic, and that is by Celestian, everybody. So once again, I need to go to that extension and download, re-download. Here, I'll show you my extensions folder. So that one is called Table Import, which the last time I downloaded it was December 9th. So I'm way behind. So I need to go and get the new version of tableimport.ext and put it there. And then once I do, it'll work even better. So that's awesome. Okay. Anything else on that, guys? We're going to move on.
So, well, I guess this is part of the when to use and not to use.
Yeah, go
But
ahead.
okay, so you're being the DM, opening all these extensions, is that going to bog it down for all the players that join you?
I've never noticed it myself, and I'm a big proponent of extensions, and I only typically use them when I'm doing 5e because that's not my game, so I got to write my extensions for it. But I haven't ever known. It's mostly you're going to see the delay, the lag from all the extra books and stuff that you're sharing with your group.
Yeah, because extensions are just XML code, which is just text. So it's not graphics intensive. Well, in most cases, I guess. But yeah, it's not opening mini extensions should not slow Fantasy Grounds, or if it does, it's a minute difference because it's really not opening giant, huge files. It's just opening text that Fantasy Grounds reads to say, hey, do this different over here or change this over there, kind of. I mean, that's a very simplistic way of understanding it. But that's a great segue into, we're going to actually crack one open here. So here's Rob Toohey decals. And I will very quickly show what that does. And then we will open it and look at it. And I believe, yeah, we'll just do it here. So I'm gonna click Rob Toohey decals and open this table. And all this does is put background images that have been chosen into the background of Fantasy Grounds. So that, you know, when you guys put in your themes like Player's Handbook or Dungeon Master's Guild or whatever you might have, if you go here to Options and Theme, Desktop Decal Image. So there's SmiteWorks, which is by default in there automatically. Then here's my business card, my logo, and All Things Fantasy Grounds talk show. And those are in the background. So actually, that's the prize we're going to give away. Whoever wins the prize, I'm going to build an extension for you, and you can send me up to 3 pictures, and I'll put them in there, and you'll be able to do this on your Fantasy Grounds desktop with whatever pictures you send me. And as a matter of fact, that is a great segue into, let's give that away right now, and then we'll show how it all works. So I'm going to...
Fury's going to win.
Fury's going to win again.
No, I'm not going to do it this time.
I'm going to start a keyword raffle extension. So if you would like to win that extension from me, just type into the chat !extension, and I will start a 5-minute timer here. And then whoever wins that when we pull the name, I will take care of that for you. So !extension, everybody. And let's make sure at least one person enters so I know it's working. I see a name pop up there. Maybe nobody wants it. Everyone's like, screw that, I don't want it. Well, that's okay. If nobody enters, then I don't have to give away a prize. But we are going to show how that works. There, okay, good. We got somebody in, so I know it works. Okay, so I'm going to go over here. So all of these extension files have an ext extension, but really all they are is a zipped up group of files. So I'm going to change this. Now, this is, hashtag warning, don't do this unless you know what you're doing. But I'm going to change that extension to zip so that we can then open the file and I will show you what's in it. So I'm going to extract it. And it's going to make a folder here. And all that's in here are the graphics that I have in there and then the extension itself. So if I drill down in the graphics, there's the 3 pictures that I have that I use for my desktop. They're all there. And then if I go back up and open the extension, I'm just going to use Notepad++. It's really very, very simple. That's the entire extension. Now, if you guys look at this, you'll see that there's some code in here like, what in the hell, dot whatever, DC, I don't know, I'm out. Like that was my attitude when I first saw it. But this is what Celestian did. He made it his business to know how these worked and opened this up and then started creating his own. And you guys can do that too by going to the workshop. That's another thing on the forums that you can go to, and we'll give you the link for that. But there are basically instructions on the Fantasy Grounds forums as to how to make these. So you can see, just without getting into the coding and everything, you can see here that basically what's happening is it's identifying what the 3 pictures are and what their titles are, and then what to do with them. This is all stuff that tells you to put it in the options menu and make them a decal so that they can be chosen and selected and put them in the desktop and all that. And this, by the way, was originally created by August. When I didn't know anything about extensions at all, he created this for me, and this was about 1.5 years ago maybe, or something like that, right around in there. And so you see that the author is August, and then I came in and I opened this up and I added Slightly Bastardized by Rob Toohey, because I wanted to add the All Things Fantasy Grounds logo to it that we just made, for our show in the last few weeks. So it had already my my card and my logo, and so I just went in here and I thought, you know what, this said 2, this said 3, everything else is the same. I'll highlight this, copy it, add it, put a 4 there, and then come down here and do the same thing and put the name of the decal and make sure that that's what it's called in the file. And I closed it and rezipped it, and it worked. So that's as easy. That's a very preliminary and simple example of how you can change an extension, and it's just fine. But you guys have to keep in mind, if you're watching this and thinking, oh, that looks super easy. Yeah, this is very basic, and all it does is show pictures on the desktop. Other extensions might be thousands of lines of code, and I mean, Celestion, I'm sure you can speak to that. Like, what's the most lines of code in the biggest one you've ever done?
I don't know the line count, but the advanced effects ones is definitely the biggest extension because it's dealing with effects and various points of entry. Like when you equip it, it puts that effects on. When you take it off, it takes it off. You drag and drop them in the combat tracker. It's adding things. So all those places I need to be able to manipulate things. So yeah, it's pretty extensive.
Yeah, and so just to show people, I'm going to open that one, and we don't recommend you do this unless you know what you're doing. What's that called? What's the name of the? What am I looking for?
It's literally called advanced effects.
Oh, you know what? I don't think I have that one. So maybe I can't open that. But let's
open up Arthur. Arthur's.
Oh yeah, okay. Let's do that one.
Usually complex, but it's definitely a little bit more than the one you.
Just to show people that the first example I gave was extremely simple and didn't even fill a screen worth of code. So let's see, what am I looking for? Extract, right? Damn it, here we go. So if we open the author extension, we're going to see that it has what?
It looks simpler, but the script is where all the code is.
Okay. So yeah,
yours here.
That's a deeper dive. You did. Will this open with?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a Lua script that just. Yeah, I mean, would anybody know? I mean, unless you know what you're doing, you're not going to know how to build that. So, but this just goes to show you there is some stuff in extensions that go deeper down into the world of, oh my God, what is happening in here? And now, if you're a coder, you would understand it better. But just to kind of open that up and show people what's up. But you can learn how to do all this by going to the workshop, which I'll post the link in the chat for everybody. So this is on the Fantasy Grounds forums. If you guys are watching these videos and you're on YouTube later after we do the show and you're not seeing these links, you can just go to the Fantasy Grounds forums. All this stuff is here. So this is the forum, create and share the workshop, and then creating new spells. They have all this stuff in here. So there's tutorials, creating a basic extension right there. So this starts to walk you through, and when you're looking at it, the first time you look at this, you're like, oh my God, I don't even want to do it. But if you're very interested in learning how to make extensions and making something happen in Fantasy Grounds that doesn't happen now that you want to happen, you can go through and learn how to do this. So that's there for you to enter at your own risk, but it is there.
How are we doing on the drawing?
Oh, let's look at the drawing. I forgot all about it. Thank you for saying.
And we got a question after that.
Okay, cool. So we got a few entries here. I will pull a name. The winner is I Am the Cleric. Excellent.
Nice.
So congrats to I Am the Cleric. If you would, sir or ma'am, there's no way to tell, PM me in Discord. I will put my Discord link in the chat right now. And if you will PM me, I will work with you to get your images, and I will make an extension for you for your Fantasy Grounds. So there you go.
Okay.
Boom. That's how you do it.
Joe Numbers had a question.
Yes, sir.
This is at Celestion. Can you talk about your thoughts on having Fantasy Grounds integrate an extension into their base program?
My personal thoughts is awesome, because then I don't have to update it. And they have much more experienced developers than just me. So if they took, say, like the advanced effects, I would I would be ecstatic because then I would have to keep it up and they would maintain. So I would be very happy.
And they have done that, by the way. A good example is the Gap themes, the Gap and the Pro theme, which are now in Fantasy Grounds just referred to as Simple Brown or Simple Gray. These were themes that a guy made, and he uploaded them to the DMs Guild for free to let everybody have, and they were so awesome that Fantasy Grounds just incorporated them. So if you go open your Fantasy Grounds right now, anybody that has the latest release, you'll go down and you'll see Theme Simple Brown and Theme Simple Gray. They're there. And they've done many other incorporations of stuff that people originally wrote as extensions that the developers thought were so awesome. They said, hey, let's just include that. So if you have an idea that you think everybody would enjoy on how to manipulate the data inside of Fantasy Grounds to do different effects or do different things, whatever that might be. And I mean, there's literally your mind is the only thing stopping you from what you might want to add. You can add it in there. I think another one somebody made was re-rolling initiative every round, and then they added that in there too. And there's a bunch of them that they've added. So
the old school initiative, is that?
No, I don't know what old school initiative is because I don't use it, but it's not that. It's a different example than that. And one thing I would like to say, I have used profanity in here, but people that know me, that's not unusual. I put the F word there. But yes, if you are creating extensions, please name your extension so people can understand it, and I'll show you why. I do have an extension here that I assume is pretty awesome that I've used before, but when you go to the extensions folder and you're trying to clean this up and get rid of stuff, what the hell is this? SLAFS version 0.0. I don't know what that is. I mean, I did figure out what it was. But if you don't know what it is, then you have to go over here and you have to basically read down through what your extensions are to try to figure out what is SLF. What the hell? Oh, it's spell library search filter for all fields extent. So anyway, my point is just please name your extensions. It's the same funny bone that gets triggered in me when people's names and screen names and emails aren't
right.
Don't make sense to me. Like sexbot69 that .gmail, that doesn't help me know who you are. So
I'm gonna take that now.
You're gonna take it. Then I'll know it's you. But yeah, I don't want to have to memorize a lot. I don't want to have to memorize all these different extensions names to know what they are. MOTD, message of the day. That's very easy to me. Window saver, that's easy. See what I mean? So that's just a plea from me. Go ahead, Fury.
Joe Numbers has a question. To just go through how to activate a certain extension once it's imported. He's asking whether or not you have to close the table or do you have to restart the whole program?
So that's a great question because sometimes if you put a module in your modules folder, you have to completely exit all the way out of Fantasy Grounds and clear it and then reopen Fantasy Grounds for it to recognize any new modules. But for extensions, no, all you have to do is come back out here to the desktop and pick the extension you want and then go back into Fantasy Grounds and it'll work. So and another way to put that is if the extension appears here, then Fantasy Grounds recognizes it. If I go now and add an extension, let's just copy this.
These are campaign specific.
Yeah.
So they're not universal.
So I've put a copy of that extension. Now, if I go back over to Fantasy Grounds, I don't think that'll be there. No. So more to Joe's question, if you add one while Fantasy Grounds is open, then yeah, you'd probably have to close Fantasy Grounds, reopen it, and then now there should be 2 copies of that in here. Yeah, so now there's 2 copies. So how you'll know is if you see it in the list, then it'll work. You can turn it on. I don't maybe want to turn on 2 of those, but yeah, you can turn it on and it'll work. And if you don't see it here, but you know it's in your folder, then just go ahead and close Fantasy Grounds and reopen it. So I'm going to get rid of that copy. What else? Oh, how it works. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask, Celestine, do you know, does Fantasy Grounds have problems with extensions walking on top of each other, like they're calling out the same things, or You know what I'm saying? Like they're written
Yeah.
similarly.
Absolutely, and that was one of the things I was going to bring up. You need to make sure that the extension you're using doesn't interact badly with somebody else's extension. Like if you used my extension with somebody else's effects extension, like the advanced effects extension, use that with somebody else's, it probably won't work right. Neither one of them will.
Okay.
So you just need to be aware of what they do. I mean, some of the things that are simple, I've got a couple that are really simple, like the ready check or the whisper ding stuff. Shouldn't interact with anything, and should work with everybody. But there are certain ones that are a lot bigger that touch a lot of things.
Yeah, and very often I think the reason one extension won't work well while another one is loaded is they're manipulating the same things. And so Fantasy Grounds is fighting like, hey, I want to change this value over here, and this one wants to change it as well, and then they're kind of duking it out. So most of the people that create extensions, though, they'll say in the forum entry on the Fantasy Grounds forums, hey, this doesn't play nice with other ones, so be careful, or whatever. They're kind of warn you. But that is a great thing to bring up and to look out for. Awesome. So we kind of covered how to make or researching. Well, actually, Leroon, I think you wanted to talk about research. What did you want to say about that?
I kind of covered it in the beginning more. So what I mean by research is when you see an extension, like in my early days of Fantasy Grounds, I just grabbed them and used them. I didn't even know what they did. I just wanted to experiment, see what the kind of functionality they added. Some of them I didn't even notice because I had no clue what it was actually doing. So before you go and download a bunch of these and install them, I recommend doing that one at a time. And when I mean one at a time, only load one extension at a time. Make sure you've gone to the forum where it's posted and read through those and see where it's gone, because that information in there is a pretty good idea of what's happening with the at least the QA on it. So you want to look at those and make sure you're up to date on what they do. And if you're not sure, make sure you get a hold of the developer or the person that helped make it. Another thing is, sometimes you don't need all those extensions loaded up, especially graphical ones. There's no need for it. If you're only going to use one thing, don't load up 10 things. There's no need to do that. And they are campaign specific. So if you load an extension for, let's say, Tomb of Annihilation, it's not necessarily going to be active in your regular campaign somewhere else in a different folder.
Right, and a good example of, I'll show you a good example of that. So whenever you buy any of the modules from the Smiteworks store, like I have all the 5e material, right? So every time you buy a module, they give you the graphics that go with it. So here's the Horde of the Dragon Queen, Lost Mine of Phandelver's, Monster Manual, blah, 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 on and on. Now, if I want to, I can load all those up. I can just bring everything in, and that way when I cycle through the desktop images, I've got images to choose from all those different extensions, and I'll show you how that works. But we don't recommend it because the only time really people are going to see this image is when they first sign on to your table, and then the rest of the time they're playing the game, they're going to have a bunch of windows open over the top of it and not really be able to see it. But you see that took a little longer to load. So now if I go to options and I come down to decal, now I'm going to have a million things to choose from on my desktop, which is awesome. But really what you would want to do is, like you were saying, if you're playing Tomb of Annihilation, just load those. Just load the Tomb of Annihilation ones. And like say we're playing Curse of Strahd, I've got, what happened to Curse of Strahd? It just went away. Let's find it. I think there's 6 of them or 4 of them. So if I was playing Curse of Strahd, I could start with this one, and then next week I could switch to this, and then the week after go here, or even during the game change them. I don't know why you would want to do it during the game, but there's 4 different images for Curse of Strahd. So that's just an example of what you can have back there. And those are extensions, but those extensions are built into Fantasy Grounds. So you already have those. When you have Fantasy Grounds itself, even if you don't have any extensions in your in your extensions folder, you will actually have some in there that come with Fantasy Grounds and that go in this folder. And a good example of that is these themes, these 4 themes, Dungeon, Simple, Wood, and Simple Brown and Simple Gray. You'll have those, and you'll also have a Fate skills thing in here, I think, that comes with it. And also, oh no, that's the thing that's that. So yeah, so there'll be a couple in there already, and then I've obviously added like a million more. So I maybe got off track there, but it's all important to cover that. What else did we want to talk about? Is that it?
Oh, Celestian. Is there a way to get a comprehensive list of all the extensions that are active, or is that just based on the individual author?
When you say active, do you mean active on your Fantasy Grounds, or
No, I mean on the forums.
No, they're pretty much maintained by the user themselves, or the person that created it. There are some lists or posts like Rob pointed out that try to collect all of those and put them in a list of what's current, but even some of mine aren't in those. Like that, the Core RPG one doesn't have all the stuff that I've done. So I'm sure there's some other stuff that people that don't have listed there either. So it's just the best thing to do if you really want to find all of them is go to the extensions forum section and look through there.
Yeah, and if you've heard about an extension, I've done this before. I heard about an extension and I went here and it wasn't in this list, so I've just gone up here to, and typed like author extension in just in the general search, and then usually if you do that, you can more than likely find where it is, although it doesn't seem to have showed up here. Savage Worlds.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah, so and I actually don't really like the search on the Fantasy Grounds forums.
Always
That's not really
Google.
Yeah, Google's better because now watch, if I try to search again for anything, it's going to tell me you can't search because you need to wait 35 seconds. You can only do one search a minute or some crap. So yeah, if I went to Google instead,
there's a site search button right back there that'll back up. So yeah, right to the right of the FAQ, hit the site search.
To the right of that site search.
Yeah,
oh, and this, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
so this
bottom,
is Google.
That section, yeah.
Okay, so then if I put author extension, so this is Google, but only for this site. So this is the equivalent of going to Google and putting site:/fantasygrounds.com space and then your search. That's the equivalent of this, I believe. So extensions. Well, I chose a bad example, didn't I? It's not. I don't see it here. The hell?
It showed up on the other search, but yeah.
Did it really? Okay, I wasn't even really paying attention. But anyway, if it's there, you can find it. You'll find it. And if not,
one thing.
Go ahead, Luren.
One thing I struggle with on this to keep up with them is like if the author puts them back like in the first post, let's say that's when they very first post it into the forums. But there really is no mechanism other than reading through everything to find out if that is the actual current one, unless they put a version number after the description or in the description somewhere. So right now I'm looking at the Core 5e buttons extension, and there's no way for me to tell when the last time that was updated unless it was on GitHub or something like that.
So which one is it? Core?
The Core sidebar buttons for 5e.
So this one.
Yeah. So if you go to the forums, it'll say, last edited or whatever. You have no idea if it's been updated or not without going through the whole.
Yeah. I was just going to say, now go look at the table importer one.
The table importer? Okay.
Yeah, you need the updated one anyways, right?
I do. So, yeah, so this tells you, yeah, see, Celestian knows what's up. He's letting you know what's here. And I do need to update this. Hello. So I'm going to go right here. I'm going to go to my Fantasy Grounds folder. Boom, boom, right like that. Like that. Extensions, boom, like that. And then I'm going to download it, and I'm going to say, yeah, I want to replace it. Oh, it's named something different. Interesting. So it was called.
Table Space Importer. Yeah, that was
And
the very
then
first rev. Sorry.
So that's I'm glad that happened. I'm always glad when mistakes happen because then people watching will be like, oh, good. What if that happens to me? So now I'm going to delete this table space import.ext, and now I have table import. So watch what happens. Let's just go. Let's put them on the spot, everybody. First of all, I need to go back out, right? Because we told Joe you restart Fantasy Grounds so it gets the right ones in there. And then I'm going to open a campaign, and I'm going to go find table importer. What's it called? What happened?
It's I tried to preface them with what they are supported under, like Core RPG Dash, like so you can see author and table importer are both down there together. Core RPG is the first word.
Oh, right here. Okay, boom, like that. Okay, so table importer. Now when we go import that same information that we did before from that PDF, it's going to title the thing. This is going to be awesome. If it blows up, then we're going to all yell at Celestian, but it's not going to happen. Yes, everybody's favorite thing to stare at for 15 seconds is this. Because we all... All right, so let's go to a table. Let's import one with this, right? Do I get lucky? No.
Yep.
I didn't have the last information in there. Okay, so that's fine. I'll copy it again. Put it in there. I'm not gonna clean it all up. I'm just gonna see if this works. Oh, look at that. Look at that shit, everybody. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So there you go. So that's how you update an extension is you go to the Fantasy Grounds forums. Now, some of them won't have that information, but anybody who knows what they're doing is they're gonna put what their updates are. And also it'll say last edited February 19th. So you'll know if you go to your hard drive and you're looking at an extension and you're like, oh, that's January 4th, but I see here that he's updated it on February 19th. Even if he doesn't have this update information with the different version numbers, you'll know, oh, I don't have the newest one. I better download it again. So that's a little trick around that. But yeah, you kind of do have to one by one sort of know what your extensions are and kind of, like Leroon suggested, maybe every month go and look to see, hey, have these been updated? Or if you know other GMs or players that are using extensions, well, you don't really use them as a player. I didn't mean to confuse people, but if you know other people who use Fantasy Grounds and use extensions, if they're using the same ones you are, someone, like Gwydian's always telling me, hey, did you know this one was updated? And I go, oh, no, and then I run and go get it. So we kind of keep on each other's toes about that. I think that's it. See, I told you guys, that was an hour. We thought that was going to be like not very long, but it was an hour. What else? Did we miss anything? Do we want to say anything? Any final thoughts? Furied, I'd like to know if your level of excitement has increased or decreased.
Increased for a few things, especially because I want to try to DM, so I see how this is going to be kind of helpful when creating a campaign or even just a one shot. But I am going to have somebody handhold me through this.
All right. I don't know who that's going to be. Hashtag Rob2E. All right.
I found out what the old school was.
Oh, what is it?
One of the users in Disc or in the chat and Twitch said that it's for weapon speed.
Oh yeah, I was listening to some podcast or something the other day where they were talking about AD&D and that they really loved the weapon speed, and I'm like, I don't even remember that. I don't even know what that is. But yeah, so that gets added so that when you roll initiative, that takes that into consideration. That's pretty cool.
I played a campaign that had that, and I hated it because it made everything so slow. Because, okay, so I was going to use a standard action, just a regular melee attack. And it was just going to be like a one-handed or a finessed weapon instead of a two-handed weapon, which is a larger die that you have to roll. And I said, I'm also going to do a bonus action spell. And he's like, well, then you're going to have to do the spell die instead of your melee attack die. I'm like, but that's a bigger die. I want to use the smaller die so I go faster before this asshole hits me with anything else.
Right. Damn it.
So yeah, not only do you have to roll a dice for your, size, and he did drop the one where you have to roll for if you're doing movement. So it was just really the size and then what type of attack you're going to do. And there is a module for Fantasy Grounds for it. And it pops it up when you pull up the combat and everything.
Yeah,
Or when you when you pull up initiative, it pops that little table up, and you have to click it, and then it rolls the dice. I'm like, ugh, horrible.
but it's
Yeah,
there
if
if that's
somebody
what
could
you're
make,
into.
yeah, I was going to say it's the analogy of people that have played WoW or some of the other games that have mods or add-ons. It's a lot like that. You can get really deep into it. I love it. I did the same thing with WoW too. So,
Yeah.
but if you are just starting to DM in 5e, I would absolutely suggest checking out Advanced Effects because it makes dealing with effects just light years better.
Yeah, I was really into re-roll initiative every round. I really love that because I just think it keeps the game fresh, the combat's exciting, you don't know whose turn it is. The reason I stopped using that particular one though, and they actually rolled that into, that's part of Fantasy Grounds now. If you go in here to the options, I think all the way down at the bottom, it's one of these re-roll initiative is there. Roll initiative each round, off or on, right there. So they actually put that in, and I really like it. The problem is, for me personally, is that obviously I'm the guy who made all these coding and these effects, right? So all my players have 15 effects on them, and if you re-roll, like if there's some effect you have on that's such and such until the beginning of your next turn, or such and such until the end of the round or whatever, you shuffle the initiative order, and that screws up everybody's effects, and then you have to manually go in here and change the initiative to adjust on, and maybe you have to take away or add a different number of rounds and all that. So because we were having to do that so often, or effects were coming off early or staying on too long, we just decided to abandon it. But it's pretty cool that somebody wrote that extension, and then Fantasy Grounds went, hey, that's cool, everybody likes it, let's put it in. And that happens sometimes. That happens a lot.
But obviously, they're not using all the automation.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. Whoever's using that, I know about you. You're not using the Rob Tui codes, which is fine. People don't have to use that. A lot of people write their own, which I encourage. But if you don't want to take the time, then give me money. Did we cover everything, everybody? Did anybody want to say? Did we have any more questions in the chat? I guess not.
I do.
You have a question. All right.
Celestian, since we got you here, how long have you been lurking around on those forums?
Fantasy Grounds?
Yeah.
About a year and a half.
Okay.
I didn't start posting until about January of last year. I was researching what my next VTT was going to be at the time. And once I fell into Fantasy Grounds, that's where I stayed.
Good news.
That's how you do it. I was going to go and try to answer that question before you guys could, but I couldn't get there in time. Because you can go to anybody's name and see how long have they been there.
Oh, yeah. I was lurking for about 6 months.
You didn't post? Yeah, okay. So I guess your answer would have been different anyway. Good. Final thoughts, everybody. Furied. Any more thoughts?
No. Sorry, I was looking at chat and looking at Joe's numbers right now.
Joe numbers
We're
causing
arguing
trouble
about
all the time.
He is causing trouble.
He is.
So what's the takeaway here, guys?
The takeaway is extensions are awesome. Use them and then make them. You guys want to alter
or at
that?
Least use them. At least use them.
Yeah. Use them, make them, and if you make something awesome, let us all know.
So should we take...
if something doesn't work, talk to PM the developer that worked on it. More than likely, if they're like me, they're going to say, oh, crap, I didn't know. I forgot about that one. I'll fix it for you.
And more than likely, anybody that's made an extension can be found on Discord in the Fantasy Grounds forums. And if you can't find them there, either come to Fantasy Grounds College, or you can even come to Rob Tui and we'll track them down for you. Oh my God, I just committed myself to
answering questions.
Now I'm a skip tracer all of a sudden. What happened?
So okay, what are the top 3 or what y'all consider the best 3 effects or I'm sorry, extensions to have? We have advanced effects, obviously, and what are the other 2 that we should have?
For me, Windows Saver and Message of the Day. Well, sorry, 14 point is number 1 for me. So my 3 are 4 yeah, 14 point, message of the day, and Windows Saver, which I somehow seemingly deleted. What happened to me? Oh, it's there.
Oh shit.
Oh yeah, it's here. It says up at the top. Yeah.
Okay. Mine would have to be the table importing, both of them.
Yes, I want to change my
message of
answer.
the day. 14-point font because I'm getting old. So anyone over 30, I recommend that. And probably got to have to say, I think it's that decal.
Oh yeah, the decal one. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So table importer, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, Celestian has all but altered my life, because I was converting a module one time and he was in the Twitch chat and he's like, "Oh my fucking God, what are you doing? You don't have to do that." And I was doing tables manually, one thing at a time.
Oh my God.
And he was like, "No, no, no." and then he, now I'm like creating tables in like 2 seconds with his thing. So it's really awesome. And there's another guy that wrote one that's similar that does the inline tables for the tables that go in story entries that don't have dice rolls. They're just in the story entry. There's also that one. So that stuff like that and NPC Engineer has just made my life so much easier. These guys have really helped me.
All right.
So I interrupted the flow. Celestian, what would be your answer?
It's really hard for me because I don't. My main game is not 5e, so most of this stuff is built into mine already. The Windows Saver absolutely is my top go-to. If you're authoring tools, if you're authoring, say, like a reference manual, I would check out Author. It'll get about 80% of your work done that you need as far as for making a reference manual a little bit easier. You'll do it in a story and organize it that way, and then when you export it into Author, it'll create the reference book and have it by chapters and subchapters and all the stuff that you were able to do in the story with the formatting and such. It'll have it. You'll have to manually do the images and inline images and such, but otherwise I hate messing with reference manuals. That is the bane of my existence. So
yeah,
I
am the same way, and I'm so grateful that you did that, and I'm still learning that, and I've gone and done different tests and I've used it, and I'm very excited about mastering that somehow eventually. But that is a great one as well. And those, like, I like the ones that I mentioned, but the table importer and the Author are going to eventually probably go to the top of my list based on the work that I'm doing and stuff. So, excellent. All right. I think, unless we have other questions from the chat, I'd say that's show in the bag, everybody.
Yep.
Oh, that was awesome. Gave away a prize, did the whole thing.
Hey, Celestian, I appreciate you coming on with us, man. It's great.
Thanks for having me. I've been waiting to irritate Rob.
Yes, by the way, I did not hear any dogs. I didn't hear any family members. I didn't hear any and Mr. Push to Talk, I've been on voice activation the whole time, but that's just because I'm going to doing a bunch of stuff, and if I have Push to Talk on, when I'm bouncing
And it's
back.
not like you have children or dogs to interrupt. So.
That's right. Thank you for reminding me, Furied, about my lonely, miserable life. Thank you so much.
I was just going to say he's a lonely guy.
I was going to say that's like, money saving strategies right there. Children and pets are so fucking expensive.
I have, since I'm in my 50s now, I have many of my friends and people that I grew up with and stuff. Most of them are all married, and they call me all the time and go, "Oh my God, you just don't know how lucky you are to be sitting in that house by yourself, quietly, with no wives or kids or husbands or anything." It's pretty funny. But the trade-off, yeah. So my saying is, humans have two choices. You can be aggravated or you can be lonely. You pick.
That's
all right. I thought that was going to get a huge laugh, and it obviously fell right into my fucking ass. But instead of laughing, you guys were like, "Oh, that's a little too real right there." That was funny.
No, I was trying to decide which one I would rather be. I'm like, I don't know. Where's my third option of being wealthy and alone and happy?
Nope.
No.
You're going to be lonely or you're going to be aggravated. It's going to be one of those two, and perhaps both if you're not careful. All right, so I'm gonna say that's it. I want to thank everybody for watching and coming to the show today. And Celestian and Furied, I want to thank you for participating again today as well. Leroon, thanks for showing up. What's up? Yo.
Yep.
And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the slides for people so people can see what's happening here on Twitch, Rob Tui, Module Creation Mondays. We've got this show every Sunday and Tuesday. Oh, yeah, let's talk a little bit about our next show. How about that? Let's see who's coming up.
Yeah, what's going on?
Oh, the 18th, which is Sunday, next Sunday, we're going to do the Maps show with Chris McDermott from
Game Tile Warehouse.
Yeah, the Game Tile Warehouse. I just have GTW in here, and I can never remember what that stands for. And he will be here to talk about his stuff. He just finished the Kickstarter, the Meanders 3 Kickstarter, which was awesome. And so he'll be here, and we'll also talk about other things mappy, and that'll be on Sunday. And future shows coming up, NPCs and NPC Engineer with Mask, and we're going to have Deluxe Oz talking about his extensions, and we've got other shows in the wings waiting to come on. And if you have an idea, anybody that's watching, if you have a Fantasy Grounds subject that you would like us to cover, then just get a hold of us. PM myself in my Discord, or go to FGC. Oh, and by the way, let's throw the link in for FGC. Bam.
Speaking of,
yeah, go ahead.
Just a population update. We're like at about 17.5 now.
Nice. 1,750 plus members at the Fantasy Grounds College. And for those of you that might be watching that don't know, first of all, how dare you? Secondly, that is a place where it's all volunteers, it's all free, it's just a Discord server where people gather and they have classes, and you can learn how to build characters, you can learn how to do combat, you can learn how to GM, learn how to do map stuff, all different kind of stuff. Everything involves with Fantasy Grounds. And not just 5e is very popular, but they also have people there that know about Savage Worlds and Pathfinder and Cthulhu and Castles and Coasters and Numenera, and you just name any rule set, you can go find somebody to talk to there about that. So it's really awesome. And Spring break's coming up. That's the last 2 weeks in March. That's where Fantasy Grounds College Discord server turns from a teaching, learning place into a game place. Like, go learn and play games and meet with people and have a good time for the last 2 weeks in March. And then
free for all.
Yeah, it's a free for all. And FGCon 12 is coming up April 13th to the 15th, and that's where if you go to fg-con.com, you can find out all about that. And by the way, for those that don't know, anybody that has a standard license, whether you participate in FGCon or not, anybody that owns a standard license from April 13th to the 15th, that will be converted to an ultimate license. And then on April 16th, it'll go back to a standard license. But you guys should all take advantage of, if you have ever had friends that want to join and play, you can maybe run a one-shot for them, have them all get demo licenses for free, and connect to your table and do it up, man. That's what it's all about. So I'm going to post the links in the chat for people that can do stuff to support my channel. Normally what I do is I say goodbye to all the 3 people that are on the channel with me, and then I close the show by myself. But that seems awkward sometimes. So now I'm trying to do it where I end with everybody still here, and then when I end the stream, you guys it's not like I just like hung up the phone on you guys and you guys are all just gone. So if there aren't any final questions, we will. No, I put in the wrong thing in the chat. I put the FG.
Hashtag lonely.
Hashtag lonely. I'm by myself. Congrats again to, what is that? To I Am the Cleric. Reroll. What is that? That's cool looking. I don't even know what that is. Let me go and put the right thing in, which is end of stream. If I can ever find it. Here we go. Admin only. Oh yeah, end of stream rewards. I can do that too. But there's all the links, guys, that you can do to help out the channel. Anybody that's in the gold economy, I will also put in the end of stream. What is happening? This should be alphabetized. What's going on? Here it is. So you guys get your 100 gold pieces. But yeah, you can go to those links and go to our Patreon site. You can go to FGC's Patreon site as well. Subscribe to the channel, donate, go to the DMs Guild, follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to me on YouTube. Still trying to get YouTube up to 1,000. Goddamn YouTube. Current sales on DM's Guild today: 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 sales today, so not too bad. Any
What's your
final?
YouTube number right now?
617, I think.
Okay, so everybody, go get your moms, get your dads, pick some more accounts, and and subscribe to Rob's YouTube. He needs it.
What was the name of that robot thing, Rob, that you said earlier?
The robot
In the evening?
thing?
SexyBot69 is up for
Oh,
grabs.
Sexbot69. Yeah. Jesus.
Okay.
I don't know
Yeah.
why. I don't know how to go to my own channel here. We go.
Well, if she subscribes or what, or he, yeah, that would be the one that will take you over 1,000.
616. I swear to God, earlier today I thought I saw 617. So I'll bet you somebody was like, yeah, you know what? Fuck this guy, and they unsubscribe. That's fine. So yeah, I'm trying to get that to 1,000 because YouTube doesn't want to let you do anything cool unless you have 1,000 subscribers now. But yeah, all the previous shows are there on YouTube. If you guys want to go watch them, you can do that. All right, so we are going to close the show. Any final, really for sure, like for reals now, any final words from any of the three of you? All right, I'm going to take that as a no. Background noise, I like it. All right, so thanks again to Furied and Celestian and Leroon for being on the show tonight. And we will go ahead and shut her down. We'll see you back all here tomorrow night, hopefully for the Wednesday night game, which is Tales from the Unending Portal. That'll be at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. And until then, good gaming, everyone.